longer.
Yeah, they told me what happened, that you were having a problem when I asked you about
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Yes.
Or, how many people have been here before?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
How many people have never been to this event before? Ah, good. Got some new people. All right. Well, before we start, we played this at opening ceremonies, and I'm going to play it again, because usually I do this panel with Greg Ayers, but unfortunately he couldn't be here this year.
Oh, you played this yesterday, right?
Yes, I did play this yesterday, same video. So I'm just going to play this again for anyone who didn't see it yesterday. As soon as I remember how to turn this on.
Yeah.
Hey, Animaine, what's worse than getting nothing for Christmas? Not getting to spend right before Christmas with your favorite people at Animaine. It's another year and I'm not there again, and I'm super sorry. The truth is, I have work that sometimes unfortunately pulls me away, and try as I might, and I did try to wiggle out of it this year so I could see you guys. I just can't leave some responsibilities. So that leaves me here working in the baking hot sun while y'all are there with beautiful red leaves and all of my favorite people having a great time this weekend. But I wanted to wish you guys a great weekend. I hope it's awesome. I hope you'll have fun. I'm so excited y'all are back to an in-person con. Y'all be nice to my favorite staff. And I have a few surprises for you. I will be DJing for you this weekend, so please go to the dance. If you stick around to the end, oh, something just got me in the nose. If you stick around to the end, you will hear the most ridiculous song I own, and it's just for two of my friends there, but y'all can dance to it too. I have some friends that came in from Boston. This is their first Animaine, so y'all make sure to be nice to them and show them why I love Animaine so much. And yeah, that's it. I'm bummed I won't see you guys, but I promise, I will see you guys next year. Until then, I will be torturing everyone here on the Gulf Coast in my Animaine shirt. So, I love you guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
All right, now give me just a moment to switch over to the camera so you can actually see what I'm doing.
Technology.
It's on the table. I found it.
Not a good sound.
Just a second. We believe in you.
Thank you. It means a lot to me.
Sure.
Here we go. Yeah.
Yay.
Alrighty. So, just a quick little bit of history on this panel. Back in 2020, I'm sorry, nope, that's not back far enough. Back in 2010, I was attending Animaine Boston, and I went to one of Greg Ayers' panels, which was about the anime industry and bootlegs and how they're pretty harmful to the industry and harmful to fans, both just in a metaphysical way, in that you don't get the content you want, it hurts the creators, but also they can be actually physically dangerous. And it was after that panel and a few other things, we wound up creating Animaine, and Greg was our first guest. And one of the stories he likes to tell is that he was feeling really down. He was coming to the convention as a guest, but he was feeling really down about just things happening in his life. He was feeling really down, so he called me to let me know that he might not be at the highest energy level that weekend. And so I was, just told him, I was like, oh, I'm real sad about that, but just so you know, this might make you feel better, we've rented a steamroller, And that was the thing we did the first year. We destroyed a whole bunch of bootlegs by basically making a big pile and letting Greg drive over them with a steamroller. It was a really fun year, and this became a kind of our annual big event that we do, where we do a little bit of education about bootlegs and then destroy them in a really, really cool way. So, with that said, I'm going to start talking about bootlegs. So, people who haven't been to the panel before, because if you have been here, I know you do, who knows what a bootleg is? That haven't been to the panel before? All right, you.
You.
Did you not raise your hand, or were you just...
Or I'm sitting
Okay. Yes, true. Well, who wants to answer what a bootleg is?
Some that wasn't made by the company and just by some random dude trying to sell something illegally?
Yeah, essentially, yes. It's unlicensed merchandise, be it DVDs, figurines, wall scrolls, posters, CDs, that was basically made by someone who doesn't own the rights. And I'm not talking about like fan art, I'm talking about they've basically taken the actual DVD, ripped it, reburned it, and are just selling it for themselves. The original creators get no credit or money, or even records of sales, so they don't get more money to make more shows. So it's harmful in that sense. But another big thing about bootlegs, aside from the harm it does to the creators, is that often bootlegs are always, the point of them is to make them as cheap as possible. And the way to make things cheaper is to use bad materials. Materials that companies doing the official things wouldn't use because they could hurt the customers, which would open up to liability and such, but bootleggers don't care about that, because if something goes wrong, they'll just disappear, open up another company somewhere else, and then, so they don't care if you get hurt. And one of the biggest examples of that happening, I know of, is that there were a bunch of plushies, and they were stuffed with fiberglass, because it was at the time a cheap, fluff-like material. And so all these plushies were filled with fiberglass. People didn't know this at the time, but they found out that they were bootleg, and in order to dispose of them, they burned them, because that would get rid of them. But what happens when you burn fiberglass is it kind of, little particles of glass basically go into the atmosphere, and it basically caused health problems for everyone who was in the area at the time of the burning of the pieces. And even apart from that, plushies, people generally give them to babies. They might be sucking on the thing and just getting a mouthful of fiberglass. A whole bunch of terrible things can happen. So in that sense, they are also physically dangerous. So you want to keep a watch out for them. So at this panel, now that I've explained what bootlegs are and some of the dangers, I'm going to do a real quick thing, kind of explain how you can identify a bootleg. And the number one main way to tell if something, almost 99% of the time you can be sure something is not a bootleg if you can find the copyright date on the actual item. Not like the copyright and who owns it and that they're saying it. Almost, like, you can, for like Hello Kitty, everywhere, every piece of Hello Kitty merchandise that's official will have the Sanrio copyright on it somewhere. Even if it's a super tiny little thing hiding somewhere, it will be there. And that is the number one way. It'll be on DVDs, it'll be on CDs, it will be on posters, which is something I'm going to talk about because that is my personal battle with bootlegs currently, as posters. But one of the main ones is DVDs. I used to have so many DVDs that I had purchased in the past, thinking that they were actual legit really cool copies where I could get the whole thing on 2 discs and it was 13 episodes, and this was before we had Blu-ray or anything like that. And that is not how it happened. I mean, they would be all on the disc, but they would be very, 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 very crappy, very poorly compressed. So DVDs, I have a couple samples up here, which in a little bit you can come up and see, but for now I'm going to try and, I can kind of see it here. So I love Digimon a lot. It's my show from growing up that I really like. Not particularly this season, but that's what I got. So this is in a kind of a weird case. This one was actually pretty hard for me to identify as a bootleg. I thought it was legitimate for the longest time. The discs actually do look pretty nice, and it's 5 discs instead of 2, so that's always nice. But the thing that threw me off is if we see on the back here, yeah, probably can't focus on it, but no, it's not showing up. It does have a copyright listed on the back here for copyright 2008 Alliance Entertainment Inc., all rights reserved. Which, me thinking, I looked at it, that was, okay, that's got a copyright. It's region 1. Most bootleg DVDs will be all region or 0 region, no region, because they wanted to sell them to whoever. And generally, almost exclusively, we don't do 0 region DVDs, especially with anime. It'll be region 1 if it was made in North America, and it was region 2 for Japan. And this one is, everything on here kind of looks correct. The thing that finally tipped me off a little bit was that I was basically just building a kind of barcode scanner reader thing so I could organize some of my collection. And this has a barcode on it. I mean, you can see that that's a barcode. It's not a real barcode, it's a fake barcode. It won't scan. And so I just started looking up Alliance Entertainment, and it's just a fake company, it's not real. So that's how I found that one out, but that's what I mean is sometimes it's easy to tell, and sometimes they can get a little tricky. I'll talk about my favorite bootleg DVD. Yeah, people who've been here before know about it. Another thing that's bootleg a lot is CDs. Well, I mean, I don't know how many people sell CDs anymore, because just time has happened.
I know places that do.
Okay, good. So they are still out there, so you got to keep a watch out. So I am a huge Evangelion fan. I love Evangelion. It's my show.
Code Geass is better.
Well, I love Code Geass. It is really good. If it weren't for Evangelion, I would say Code Geass. Okay. So there's this really cool set called the Neon Genesis Evangelion S2 Works. This is basically, they went out and got a whole bunch of different composers and music writers to do their own version of the soundtrack of Evangelion. And it's this really cool just set of music. And I knew about that this set existed, so I found it on eBay, got a hold of it, and it's really cool. Except, so this is a 7 CD set, and they don't really sit in this case or fit in the case. There are 6 slots for discs. There are 7 discs. There are 6 spaces for discs in this case. But they don't look, at first look, they don't look that bad. But they don't have any copyright on the discs themselves. The company, yeah, also the case was just falling apart to begin with. This isn't from Age, this is how I got it. There's no copyright, oh well, this is stuck here forever. I'm not too worried about it. On the back here, it says it came from KO Records, which, I mean, sounds real. Since looked it up, it's a company that is known for making bootlegs. And the thing that really tipped me off as I was reading about this particular set, it's supposed to be, the set is actually supposed to be in 7 different jewel cases, so it's like a cube. And when I was reading about that, I was like, that doesn't sound like what I got. And then I looked a little more into it, found out it was a bootleg, and was very sad. And some of the audio discs can be a bit harder to identify if you don't know to look for certain things. I have up here, thanks to Mike, Mike has a bunch of cool examples of bootlegs that he bought and then found out they were bootlegs, so he went to find and get the actual legitimate ones.
Yep.
So Afterwards in the panel, you can come up here and try and identify which is which. I'm not going to talk about which is which here. I will say some things. If you remember it, you'll see if you can recognize it.
It's a guessing game.
One of the things with this is that you can learn a lot of the companies that are well known for doing bootlegs. There's Mia Recordings, Ever Anime, SM Records, and with that sort of thing, it's really something that if you just educate yourself on which ones are the bootlegs, which again you wouldn't know to do if you don't know that they're out there, which is why we do these sort of panels, is to let you know that there's all these sneaky bootleg merchandise out there that are just trying to get you to buy them. But the Mia Recordings ones look like legitimate releases until you really start looking for the copyright information and stuff like that. Alright, what else? The DVDs. Another indicator, as there might be a lot of English where it's broken English, it's not pronounced, or it's not written properly, or it'll say really weird things. I'll read a little bit about that in a second. First, another thing that is bootlegged a lot is wall scrolls. There's more companies that do them now. GE Entertainment is one that does most of the official wall scrolls. There are other ones, and I don't know them all by heart because I haven't kept up. Shame on me. But again, the biggest thing you can do to identify if a wall scroll is real or fake is, does it have the copyright information? Does it have the company or the studio that produced the anime or video game or whatever the wall scroll is of? Again, this is an example of a bootleg wall scroll. It's just some concept art. I believe this was actually taken from one of the art books, and they just blew it up, put it on a wall scroll, printed it out, and then I paid probably like $20 for it at one point, unfortunately. And adjacent to wall scrolls, we have posters. Posters are something that's bootlegged a lot because they're very easy to replicate. You just take the original somewhere, and then you can just copy it, take it to FedEx, and then you have a whole bunch of copies you can sell. Or you just blow up the image in your computer, print it out, you have a whole bunch. So they are unfortunately super hard to identify if they're real or not, because even if they have the copyright, they may have just been scanned and copied. So unfortunately that one is super hard. The only way to really be sure is, I have no idea. You have to be, I don't know how to check on old things because those are the things that could have been copied and, or just copied and printed out as new ones. Your best bet is for newer stuff and to get it from places you know are releasing the legitimate ones at the time. Movie posters from movie theaters, etc. But old stuff is unfortunately really hard. There's also these posters. There are some posters where you can tell are obviously fake. You may have seen these over the years at conventions. They're these kind of like laminate plastic, a little bit shiny posters, and they look really cool. But they'll always have these weird little numbers in the bottom corner, and nowhere on this whole thing is a copyright or the name of the company or studio. They'll usually have the name of the show, but no copyright or anything. And I'll have up these examples for people to come and check if you want to see them up close. And here's another example of just a poster that was copied out of an art book and printed out big. It's not in great condition because I haven't taken care of it because it's a bootleg. I also paid $14 for this, wherever that sticker went. Yeah, I know.
Worth 14 minus 10.
I have a whole bunch of posters like that, and they just make me very sad. Alright, I'm going to talk about my favorite bootleg. I saw this, and I did buy this knowing it was a bootleg, and I feel bad for it, but it was just so bizarre. I needed it as an example. Again, I love Neon Genesis Evangelion, that's my show. And, so anyone who hasn't been to this panel before that knows Evangelion? Okay.
I know of it.
I've seen like 3 episodes.
Okay,
The
well,
only thing I
this,
know is the main character got mommy issues.
a lot of issues, not just mommy issues. So, this is a quick rundown. There's a few main characters in this show. This is
It's like a
Shinji.
mix
This
of
is
Indian Watch and
Asuka.
Yu Yu Hakusho.
This is Masato. I have no clue who this center person is.
I haven't watched it, I knew that was.
You don't know who that character is?
It's a completely different art style, and this probably doesn't come across very well on the video, but the art itself looks really like real sketchy. My other favorite thing that I realized first favorite thing, these are DVDs, and does this little logo up here look familiar?
Oh yeah, for sure. That's definitely bootleg.
Yep, these are all these are all, despite telling me it's 1080p full HD Blu-ray DVDs.
Right.
And then it's got this really it's so nuts. There's a whole bunch of screenshots in here, some of which are from some of the games, some of which are not the show at all, again. Can't see that too well. Again, you have this up here if you want to come look at it. And one of the really interesting things here, so it's got a slip cover, nice, right? Can't see this too well, but Shinji's very poorly cut out on the back. He's got like a bowl cut. And if you open this, it came like so. A disc, and then a second disc in a little plastic slip thing here. And they really went all out on this one because, I'll put down the mic for a second. Because they decided to print a big old poster on the inside of the case. The biggest character, of course, is the one I don't know who it is. Also, there's Darkrai, the Pokemon, in the background here, and Cresselia there. I have since found the Pokemon card that they stole that from. So it's just, I mean, it's art in a terrible bad way.
I understand why you had to buy that.
I think I would have bought it too.
It's so
I
bizarre.
hung it on my wall.
And so another fun thing, I was talking about the English. Here's the warning on the bottom of this thing as I read it. It's a warning. Please read Tetris Warmong carefully before opening the sealed package. By Copenring, the licenses the film, including its soundtrack, comprised of this Kinatal video dinks for and private home viewing only. All unauthorized use includes selling, relling, exporting grubic performance, broadcasting, and or trading any part of this copyright material without obtaining prior written license, and infringement of copyright violators will be prosecuted.
They should be prosecuted themselves.
So it's just absolutely bizarre and just
Preposterous.
preposterous.
Selling and relling.
Selling and relling, yes. Alright, does anyone have any general questions about bootlegs or how to identify certain things? And I can answer. Yes?
Was there, I don't know if this is a thing, but can you get some cosplay outfits that are bootleg?
You can get cosplay outlets that are
You start to feel a
bootleg.
little bit itchy afterwards.
Well,
Or you have to
probably most of them that you get are
Or if you get it from,
bootleg,
like, the brand
unless it has a
size
tag with
size that you don't
the
want.
official company on it. It depends again on who makes it. If I'm not condoning bootlegs, but if the people who've made the costume are obvious fans and they care about the show, I wouldn't worry about the dangers of it. But if it's people just making stuff because they want to sell it to you for on the cheap, and then you might want to look out a little bit for endangering of materials and such. But other than that, just look on the tag on the outfit somewhere will be the name of the studio and a copyright date of the people who actually own the copyright to the show that the costume would be from. Yep.
Isn't one of the sites that would be Alibaba?
Yeah, there'll be a lot of bootleg stuff on Alibaba, just because Alibaba is a kind of big old marketplace where anyone can just list stuff, and Alibaba is a bunch of the manufacturing places, so you will find, that reminds me of a thing to talk about,
I was gonna say Macari too.
you will find a lot of places that will just make bootlegs just because they're a big old marketplace thing. On that note, real quick, for figures, you can actually get bootleg figurines that are made by the same factory that makes the official ones, because what they would do is that the factory themselves would do the run of initial actual items, and then they would send off that order and then use the same molds to make a bunch more, which then they would sell for super cheap. And there's a name for those, I've forgotten it, but that is a thing that can happen, and generally those ones will have boxes where they've stripped the copyright of. So again, copyright is what you want to look for. Other questions? Yes.
Is there any danger, I mean, aside from just like not supporting the industry, if you actually watch a bootleg DVD, can it actually cause any problems?
I have heard stories of it hacking up some DVD players. This was forever ago, and maybe. You could definitely have the danger of it just not working and ripping you off. I have had DVDs that were bootleg where they were subtitled, but the subtitles only worked every other line, or they were in the wrong spot, or particularly on this one, this has the dub and sub of Evangelion. The dub is about 1 second out of sync with the rest of the show, all the audio. So the danger you're going to run into there is...
Why is his lips moving in this part, not in this one?
Or why did someone get punched and then no sound happened, and then a second later is like, ugh. So it's, your danger is more to, you're going to have a bad experience with the show. Back there?
What about keychains?
Keychains. Again, yes, you can have, there's a lot of keychains. Usually those little metal casted ones. And again, that's going to be you want to look for the copyright. For most, or for, again, I'm going to say most, all of the official stuff will have a little copyright symbol stamped into the back in those usually.
I know like a lot of the acrylic stuff, it doesn't come with copyright stuff on it anymore.
But is it real in the first place?
It's from Ami Ami.
Okay. That's the thing, it depends on who makes it and stuff. I'm unfortunately not super up and up on the keychain bootleg scene these days, but in the past, it was mostly those metal ones. I do know that they're doing the acrylic ones a lot more. So yeah, there is danger of the bootlegs. The best thing I can say for really any bootleg, if you're concerned, there are websites and groups. There's a Facebook group, but just for finding bootlegs. Just search for bootleg identifying and you'll find these on Google. But there's sites, Facebook groups, and other places where you can post a picture if you're not sure, and they have experts there who will, or the group is so huge, someone will know something. And if not, then they'll be interested to see what it is, and you can add to their collective knowledge. Yes.
Have bootlegs ever gotten to Spirit Halloween?
Yes.
I asked that for a specific reason.
So there's probably, I would say, and there's also a bit of a line between I guess it's still a bootleg. A lot of those costumes that have a picture of a character that is clearly a character and not officially that character, those are technically bootlegs. Those are the more harmless type, but they are still technically bootlegs in that sense. What was your specific question?
I bought like a shooting type vest for Naruto, and but I looked on the tag and it said My Hero Academia.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's probably. I mean, I've seen a lot of bleach hats. It's been so long. What's the? Urahara's hat. I've seen a lot of bootleg those. I got into a fight with a lawyer at a convention once because he didn't believe me. I had a little bit of trauma from that. Mike.
So what would you say, like, these days, if you could categorize, like, what you think is popping up more in the bootleg scene, so that, like, in terms of what do you think is, like, the most common item these days out that we should be looking out for compared to, like, years past?
So, in what I've seen, and again, I have a very limited view of where to find stuff because most of the conventions I go to now, ban bootlegs from their dealers' rooms, which is really nice. I don't have to worry so much. Like I generally go to the small New England cons and Anime Boston, and that's the extent of my my search. And I haven't seen bootlegs at all in most of them, or in all of them, for years now, which is really nice. The thing I personally run into again is posters. I have been, when Netflix was putting out the new She-Ra show, I've been dying to get hold of the posters they did for each of the season. And because COVID happened in season 5, the final season came out, that poster never went to Comic-Con, so there was no way to get a hold of the new one. And every place I find selling it is selling a pretty crappy print of it. I bought it trying to hoping it was real, and I got it and I could instantly tell because the print quality was off and it was awful. So posters is my current bane that I've noticed. There are probably others more to look out for. CDs is definitely one still. But luckily, in all the cons around here I've been to, I haven't seen bootlegs in a while.
I would say like that the biggest thing I've seen is when you go to not anime cons but Comic Cons, that's where it's like really definitely an issue.
I've seen it when I was in Florida and I went to some of the Comic-Con that was down there. There was a lot of bootlegs.
So a good way to kind of weed out a bootleg is if you're at a dealer booth, ask them if it's bootleg. Because if it's legit, they will tell you their sources. They will be proud to tell you their sources. If they try and get aggressive with you or like, oh, it's real and this is why it's real and not give you a real answer, chances are it's bootleg. Any legitimate seller will tell you they're legitimate and give you your services.
Yes, and if you don't want to do that because you hate confrontation like me, go find your friend who loves confrontation and make them do it.
Actually, I found out a great way to actually do that when I actually went to an anime store. I said to them, I've been, unfortunately, I've bought stuff in the past that I found out later on was bootleg, and then I kind of play that feel sorry for me type of thing, and that's where they're just like, oh yeah, no, these are all legit, and then they go through their sources. So I think that's one way that I've been able to.
Yeah,
cope
that is
with
the things like the vendors who sell legit stuff hate the bootleg people, so they will be happy to tell you if their stuff's legit and why it's legit. Yes.
Is there any way, like, I know it's hard to sort of decrease the amount that is coming out, but is there any way to report bootlegs or like contact the original people to say, hey, I don't know how to explain it, but.
Yeah, unfortunately, not really. The best thing you can do, I mean, if it's something Disney, then you can probably call Disney and maybe they'll do something. It depends on what it is too. There was a bit where people were selling a bunch of Square Enix and Kingdom Hearts swords, and that was something that Disney wanted to shut down because if someone gets hurt with the sword and it's connected to them, they don't want that. So again, it depends on what it is. If it's something that's dangerous, they're more likely to take action, and you can usually find, if you look up the person who owns it at the studio, they generally have a contact us station, that's where you would do it. The other place you can do it is, if you're at an anime con and you see it, generally go to the people running the show and just say, hey, I saw they're selling bootlegs over there, and depending on the show, they'll either be like, oh, I'm gonna go get them for this, or they'll just be, I don't care, and then you'll know how they feel. Yes.
Do you have any tips for listing and browsing on like secondhand markets? And also follow up, is Surigaya reputable?
The Surigaya.jp?
Yeah.
Everything I've gotten from them has been real. I don't know if they check their stuff, I just know the stuff I've gotten from them is real. I don't know for certain whether or not they are checking to make sure they're not selling bootleg stuff. I would go with yes until I'm proven wrong there. But for market stuff, read the comments is my best.
But like, say it's just
like a one,
like a secondhand listing.
Usually, again, not read the comments on the item, but if you go and read the comments on the seller, that is the best way I would do it. It is really hard because a lot of people won't leave comments sometimes. The best things would be to look at the screenshots if you're thinking about buying something and you're not sure. You can contact the seller, ask them to take a close-up screenshot of, or close-up picture of something. Specifically, you can ask them for the copyright information. And if they can't do it, then it's probably bootleg. But also, again, I know for me on eBay, that's a risk because you're bidding on something and you only got so much time. Unfortunately, that's where the biggest risk lies. Yeah, it's basically you just contact the seller and ask them if they can take a picture of the copyright, or if it's a specific item that you can look up, and just research that item itself and look for bootleg stuff.
Bootleg camera.
The camera, I think it was the recording.
Yeah, it was. It has a time limit on recording. It'll be back in a second, which will be cool in a second. Yes.
Do you make a distinction between bootleg and reproduction?
There's yes and no. That's the thing where it depends on who's making it and why they're making it. Because if it's not the original company, that people don't own the copyright, everything is technically a bootleg in that sense. But we luckily have a really cool, the culture around fandom stuff is, specifically with the companies, is very cool that we can do fan art and we can do all that stuff. That is all technically infringing, but the companies know that this is how it works and that it engages the fans and it's such a good thing. It's when it becomes a mass-produced thing that's done by people just to make money and not because they like this thing that it becomes an issue. For reproduction stuff, like, I've seen a lot of reproduction, I like to collect anime cells, and I see a lot of reproduction cells, which I don't know why you would want them, myself personally, except for if they were like an official reproduction, because then it's an official collector thing. But if that's something people want, that's treading the line of fan art, but I don't, it's, again, technically yes, but that's up to you if you know it's a reproduction. Now, if it's in a reproduction being sold as legit, as a real thing, that's a whole other story. Yes, again.
Do you know anything about like art theft? Like, I know a lot of artists will make like plushes, so like stolen plushes. Do you have any tips for that?
I don't know too much about it, but another bootleg that we kind of glossed over a bit, I think I waited too long, is we have the bootleg stuff of official art, but there are people who will bootleg artists, just like artist alley artist stuff. They'll go to their Tumblr or wherever and just rip all of their art off and then make art books and make stickers out of them and sell it, of just artists that they found. And that's unfortunately not a lot you can do there because it really requires you to be familiar with the artist to know that it's not their art, which is the thing we're lucky with knowing that it's anime, because we know the shows and we can easily find out who that is. So unfortunately that's much harder to do because, again, it's harder to find out who did the original stuff. Yes.
So I'm not going to name the name of this convention, except for Quincy knows I'm about to talk about and might have some input. So I know that if you see like some bootleg merchandise at a con, you should probably definitely tell a member of staff, blah, blah, blah. What if you see like several vendors at a con doing bootleg stuff? Like, what if it's just like much more than like one or two, but you're suspecting that it's maybe like a quarter of them?
Yeah, I mean, really all you can do, because again, even though it would be real fun, this is where I got into a fight with a lawyer, but basically, we don't have any legal authority to do anything, because we're fans, we're not the people who hold the copyright. We can report it to people, but basically our job is to report it to the convention, and if the convention isn't doing anything, then you can go find the copyright holder and tell them that you told the convention they didn't do anything if you want to get them in trouble. But that's up to you how much you like confrontation. Again, I don't, but you can do it.
I'm ready to throw hands.
There you go. But so that's the thing there. If you see a lot of people, a lot of vendors doing bootlegs and you've told the convention staff and no one's doing anything, then that would be the next thing to do is contact the rights holders. Yes.
For like posts online, like say eBay or anything similar, like would bootlegs have more photos to try to prove, or would it have like longer posts or more description, or like you know, what would be the difference between say like a legitimate version where it had like a legitimate information?
So one of the problems that you'll run into with buying stuff online is people can send you any photos that they want. It may not be the actual item you're getting. That's the thing I run into on Amazon. And when I wound up with bootleg things from Amazon is the photo was of the legit one, but the item I actually received was not. Now on Amazon you can then go report that to Amazon and then they'll have some refund policy for some stuff and you can do that. But there's really, the online stuff, especially on eBay, on Amazon, is you do have to end up trusting that what they're giving you is true, and there's not really much else you can do there. So it's really, if on something like eBay, you can contact the seller and say, hey, show me this thing with a picture, and then if it's real, they'll show it to you. If it's not, then, and then also if you buy it and it's not real, then you can report it to eBay, and that is really all you can do in that case. Yes.
If you find like a bootleg or something, can't you report that to the police or no?
No, I wouldn't do that. I think you could, but then they'll probably not care, and then they'll not like that you wasted their time. But it's really, you have to, because basically, again, because you're not the copyright holder, we are not allowed to actually do anything about it. So you can report it to the copyright holder or report it to the people who are running the venue where you find it, and that's what you do. That's the best option. Beyond that, it's up to the copyright holder to take action. Yes.
So like, ethically, would there be a difference between, say, a factory reject versus unauthorized production?
So, yes, I would say generally factory reject. It depends on, by the time it comes to you, if you're buying it, I would say factory rejects are much more ethical because they've exchanged hands, they've been sold out. But yeah, that's one. It's a real gray area. It depends on how the factory reject left the factory and stuff. It's stuff that you can't know, basically. Generally, that's the sort of thing that gets really high for collectors. So I'm not going to say no, don't do that. That's a good thing for you if you're a collector. So I'm a collector. I love collecting things, especially rare stuff like that. And that's also, it's a weird thing where a factory reject is different from something that was created specifically to rip off someone else. But again, we're going into philosophy type stuff there. Technically, not ethically, I think there is. Other people might disagree, but it's really up to you at that point. Does anyone have any more questions? And these will be the last one before we do the cool stuff. You.
So you had mentioned before that there sometimes when figures are made, the company will just keep using the same molds.
Yes.
If the original batch of figures does sell out, as quite often they do, is there ethically really much of a difference in buying the continued production of them?
Yes and no. When you get to the ethics thing, it gets real weird and gray area. If it's something,
and they would technically count as bootlegs?
they are. So they are. So those
the
specifically these ones that are the extra runs are made without the company who made its knowledge. They're made after the fact. No one knows that no one who's involved with the show knows that they were made, and they're sold elsewhere for like just to get money from people. None of that goes to the creators, or none of that is gone to the people who look at the money to decide whether or not they're going to give the creator more money to make a show. So that's up to you. At that point, I would say that buying it encourages them to keep doing it, which then puts more out there, which then takes money away from the creators or it may not take money directly from the creators, but what it does is that the people who determine if the creators get to make another show will see that they're not making a profit, so the creator then doesn't get a new show type thing. And you had a hand up?
If someone makes a cosplay outfit and sells it at a convention, would that be considered a bootleg?
If they like handmade it,
Yeah. And try to sell it. Like sometimes they do
that's where
garage sales.
that becomes more of a handmade fan art type situation in that case. Again, very technically, yes, but that's where I personally would draw the line. That is fan art, handmade. That's good to go. That's fine. If you made it, that's it. It's technically not a different situation, but
It's not mass produced.
yeah, it's not mass produced. No one is gonna come and get you in trouble for that, if that's the question there. So that's a fan art type deal. Last thing, yes.
What do you think about middleman websites that you used to order from stuff like, because that's what I've been using a lot as of the last couple of years, and I feel like it's really helped out a lot, but I feel like not many people know about it.
So I use Subculture J to buy anything from Japan that I use, and they've been very good with me. But again, I wasn't trying to buy anything that might have been a bootleg. I do not know too much about how it goes. I do not know really the extent of bootlegs in Japan, which is where I'm buying those items from. So I would say in that instance, I'm say be cautious, but
I haven't had any issues. I haven't had any issues. I think it is something that I feel like just a lot of people just don't know about. Like if they're looking to buy stuff from Japan, I think that's actually a really good way to do it because usually you can buy stuff from Japanese websites and that's how you can get them shipped to America.
Yeah, so if there's something like specific you're looking for and you're trying to find it on eBay and you're not sure, you can instead go to, there are sites that they're basically, they operate from Japan and they will go and buy the item there for you, pack it up, ship it to you, like
Bai is my favorite one, hands down.
Subculture J, there's some other ones I've forgotten the names, but you can just search for their, I forget what I searched for proxy bidding service, but there's other names for them. And that's a good way to get official items because they'll go to the store to get you the actual one. And that's really cool. All right, so now we're going to do some cool stuff. Give me a moment while I reset. Oh, I'll tell you what it is. So this year there was a bunch of stuff we were playing around with to do, but due to the unpredictable nature of the weather and the fact that we had done such a good job that we'd gotten no donations of bootlegs for a while, I didn't have much to destroy. Thankfully, Mike has brought us a whole bunch of audio discs.
Yep.
I just didn't know about that before that. We brought back an old one, an old but good one that we've done before, but people always like it. I have a whole 10 liters of liquid nitrogen back there.
Oh, delicious.
So it's going to be real fun. But, give me just a second while I reset a little bit.
Did you know that you can drink liquid nitrogen but only once?
Only one.
Yeah. Why?
What do you mean why?
Alright, we're gonna stop
Yeah,
this and then start it again for the actual
I unfortunately do
presentation.
hear things that come out of my mouth. That's why it must be why.
And I get to hear them all the time.